Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Talkin Kop. It's me, Chris Brack. I'm here with Kev and I'm here with Ashley. And we're here to talk about the fifth Liverpool player to have a palindrome surname, Hugo Ekitike. I've just learned that word, so I'm feeling very proud of myself. Ash, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm
You're
good.
getting ready for your trip.
I am, yes, getting ready for my holiday. But yeah, I'm also impressed I've learned a new word, so, every day's school day. Kev,
Dad
you're
should
just
be so
impressed because
proud of you.
I know. Kev just told me to F off because he was just like, stop making words up.
If you were wondering why we were late, Chris found a new fact and he decided he had to share it with the group.
Well, yeah. It's like your thing, Kev, when we're about to finish a show and you go, oh, breaking news, and there's
Yeah.
another 25 minutes.
But at least when I do it, we're live. You know what I mean?
Come on. I'm like an excited toddler. I've got to get it out straight away.
I feel like there needs to be like an additional tier of Patreon to get into like the conversation that we have before shows.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes you get me and Kev having a fighting, which is quite
We've
regular.
not a good Barney in a long time, have we?
I know. Wait till the football
Definitely
starts.
due. We'll wait till
The football starts.
Yeah.
I think the last one was it Forest at home? Forest away. Forest
God,
away,
yeah.
we were both grumpy anyway. So,
Yeah.
so we were grumpy with each other. I think Ashley was the referee.
Oh, geez. I need to borrow Kev's shirt for that one.
Yeah, well, you would.
Sorry.
Leave my shirt alone.
Oh,
It's an open target.
It's my Foot Locker shirt. Leave me alone.
Yeah. Kev, I think we're being a bad influence on Ashley. She used to be
I
nice.
know.
Now she's turning into the dark side like us.
That's it.
Anyway, sorry. Hugo Ekitike. Let's talk about him. Finally announced, more bigger news than that, Ashley. Paul Joyce is alive. We finally had a tweet from Paul Joyce, so
his poor wife has given his cell phone back after they went on vacation.
Clearly,
it's good to hear from him. He is sort of our go-to source when it comes to this kind of information. But it does seem like this news has been trickling out. I think there were a lot of people that were a little bit disappointed. They were like, is this the announcement? But we have to remember that a lot of the media team is over in Asia, so I'm sure he will get a formal announcement, but it's nice to know that he passed his medical and that he's on his way over to Asia right now. So he's going to be able to participate in some of these preseason games. Probably not the one this weekend, but we'll be able to see him pretty soon, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, because I think he's currently travelling, isn't he, over now to the Far East tour. So
yeah.
So you never know. Might be on the bench. Might do a Torres. I think Torres did that and got the last 5 minutes. We won't mention the rest of the game, Kev, if you can remember it. He missed the penalty, so that was a good start to his career. Kev, excited?
Yeah.
Sure.
Look. It's a lot of money. It's 69 million plus 10 in add-ons pounds for a guy who's 23 years of age, who scored 15 goals in the Bundesliga, has all the potential in the world to be something, but he's not the finished product by any stretch of the imagination. And a price tag carries weight. We've seen it before. So you hope for the best and fingers crossed. He's if you were buying someone at 26, 27 who you could look at and say, okay, he's got a body of work, we know he knows his game inside out, we know what we're getting, then it'd be different. I think you have to have a bit of nerves about signing any kind of 22, 23-year-old, and I'd include Kerkez and Frimpong in that, until they play in the league, and they start playing the volume of football that the Premier League demands at the intensity that it demands, as well as the Champions League and everything that entails. We don't know. And the hope will be that I hope we end up paying £79 million. That would be the dream, because that's a league, a Champions League, and all the other bells and whistles that go with it. 6-year deal, which helps with the amortization of the contract. And by the looks of it, we've been on this since the turn of the year. So this isn't Johnny come lately. This is a reincarnation of the Spurs Luis Diaz story.
And which was mentioned in the article, isn't it? And that seems to be a trick Liverpool have tried a couple of times, isn't it, Ash? Which is let somebody else do all the work and Liverpool step in then. Doesn't always work. Caicedo is the obvious example, but it's almost like Liverpool let somebody else do all the work. You could argue maybe that's what they're trying to do with Isak a little bit, which is if you go to Isak, if Saudi elites are real,
Like, what I would say is it looks like when this deal, you see, Chris had made a point about doing the groundwork. It looks like Liverpool did do the groundwork, and they've bought into Ekitike early on. It might have been the case that when Man City bought Marmoush, that we were looking at the two of them, and we plumped for Ekitike and thought, okay, that's an option for us in the summer. And that's when we did the groundwork behind the scenes quietly and waited until Newcastle pressed the button. Is that how you see it, Chris?
I think so. Yeah. I never bought. I mean, I know Newcastle fans got very excited over it, but I never bought because you've gone for Isak, we're going to develop. Liverpool aren't really that sort of impulsive. That's the sort of thing, Chelsea do, possibly United. I kind of feel actually, if Liverpool are going for a player, they'll go for it. And we've seen there's enough historical evidence in the past for Liverpool is if they don't see the players they like, they'll go without as much as it'll piss everyone off. And we've seen summers where it's pissed us off, but they're like, we're not going to buy someone we think shit or doesn't fit. So, you hope it works out. You hope it works out. I mean, he sort of feels he has all the attributes that should work in the Premier League. He's, physical. He's fast. Confident. Flexible. All sort of things you need, really, isn't it? Basically, all the things we kind of thought Darwin would bring, but I think he just seems a little bit probably calmer in front of goal. I would say from what I've seen of his finishes.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of headroom for him to grow there. I think his ceiling is quite high. I was reading some of just some really basic statistics on him, and they were talking about when they were doing some of their data behind him as a striker. They said that he profiled just behind Haaland and Mbappe in terms of what they were looking for in a striker. And take that with a grain of salt. I don't know what those data profiles are, but I think his numbers are very good in terms of, he's 23 years old or 24 years old. He's got quite a lot of room till he reaches what I think a striker's peak is, which is right around 28. So I think it's more of a project. I think a lot of us were looking at Isak as, sort of that ready-made striker that may still happen. I have no idea. But I think there's enough raw material there for Slot to use with Ekitike to really mold him into exactly what he wants. He seems, I don't want to use the term Bobby-esque because Bobby is such a unicorn, but he seems that he's able to link play in the way that Bobby did and bring others in. It's not just sort of your standard target man. He's not like a Sesko. He's not a Gyökeres. He's going to work more than a Haaland does. He's going to link players in. And I think that I recall Slot talking about why he doesn't use Mo Salah as a striker. I think it was one of his post matches. And he said, because I want my striker to do more than what Mo Salah does. And you think about all the things that Mo Salah does, he's fantastic. But I think he really does have this idea of almost like this holistic striker that's linking play. And I think between him and Wirtz, I think there's just going to be such a really intricate pattern of play that's happening there. I'm really excited to see it.
Yeah, I think in the Joyce article, Kev, they highlighted one of the reasons they liked Ekitike was how he could bring players in. His link play was good, and also how he could work in tight spaces, which with Darwin, that has been the criticism. That's one of the criticisms, other than sometimes his lackluster finishing, is his link play was always the one that looks like a work in progress, whereas it feels for Ekitike it's just a bit more natural. Horse for course, everyone has their own strengths, but it just feels like that suits us better.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be cards on the table. I could probably tell you I've watched Frankfurt twice. I haven't watched him enough in over 90 minutes to know what he's going to offer you. I've seen the same highlights that everyone else has seen. There's a few goals that not goals. I've seen him a few of his assists where he's very good at laying people off with the right weight of pass onto the proper foot. Some of his interlink play with Marmoush was really, really good. And the fact that he played in a Frankfurt side that had a good European run, for someone of his age is good. It shows you that he's got that durability. Of the one thing I always had a problem with the Bundesliga, though, bringing players in from the Bundesliga is, and it's a strength of the league itself. There's only 18 teams in the league. They have a proper winter break. They only have one domestic cup competition. So the Bundesliga looks after its players. And I always felt that the volume of football for first-year Bundesliga players when they come into the Premier League is tough, but he'll get the bulk of a good preseason in with the club. He looks like he's going to join up with the tour, and no doubt they'll try to get as much into him as possible. But as it stands at the minute, there isn't any outs at the club. So it's one in. And from now on, I think the club will be looking at sales as well as maybe adding to the squad with anything that needs. There's one position that we know that needs addressing, but there's a few others that definitely need some sales. So the next few weeks could be good, but again, I'm looking forward to seeing what he offers. The other thing that I like about it, and you're going to hear this phrase all along, he's really good for a big man. Technically, he looks a really good footballer.
Djibril Cisse said a similar thing. Cisse actually said there is an element of Crouch about him. Obviously, Cisse played with Crouch.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, he's got that Joel Matip body type.
Yeah.
Long, streaky, wiry-looking York.
Needs to go bowler scouts.
Bambi on ice is what I think.
But he can. He's really technically very good on the ball, and he's got good feet, and he's got good body strength, and it looks like he's good in the air. Even when you look at the aerial challenges that he does win. I'm not about headers, aerial goals. I'm about aerial challenges that he wins in the air against centre backs. There was one I saw a highlight of was him. I think it was up against Kim Min-jae when he was at Bayern Munich, and he just leveled him. And I'm just looking forward to it. I think the club have put 6 months into this. They're not going to waste their time if they don't believe that he's going to be the right fit for the manager. So he'll be in, and I think he'll play. Whether there's going to be any more additions up front depend on departures. I definitely don't think that we're going to be getting a more expensive striker than what we've just paid. I'll just leave it there.
Don't be upsetting everyone.
I'm not upsetting everyone.
I'd say turn his mic off, but he's in control of the stream.
We've spent the bones of £300 million this window, right?
We've got another 150 to spend. We're sound.
Yeah, well, we don't, because
we do.
We do, and then don't spend a bean for the next 2 transfer windows.
Yeah, that's kind of what we do. That's kind of what we do anyway, Kev. I don't think it'll work.
No, I honestly think that we'll do what we need to do, but we'll leave a cushion for next summer that we'll still be able to add. I can't imagine that we're going to throw everything and the kitchen sink at this particular window. I think we've thrown a hell of a lot at it, but it's going to be. I mean, I don't think we're going to get. I think the players' sales will balance out with anything that comes in from now on.
Okay.
But we've already seen it with Frimpong. We've already seen it with some of the other transfers, with some of the sales that we've had. They are balancing out. You see the kind of money that we're asking for some players, and it's balancing out with the signings that we're making. So I just don't see a world where we land £120 million on Alexander Isak. I can't see it.
Okay, Ashley, me and you will have a conversation. Kev quiet time. He's upset all the chat. They all think he's now Jim. They all think he's turned to Jim Radcliffe. That's not my words.
We were saying earlier we haven't seen Grumpy Kev in a while.
Not grumpy. Just
no,
honest.
Surprisingly, that's happy, Kev.
Honest.
Give it a fefew weeks on the Sea Stars. You'll see grumpy Kev.
No, I won't, because we're going to be winning.
Yeah, you're still grumpy. But I suppose the good thing about getting Ekitike in now and him getting himself over to the Far East tour is, as Kev was before, that there is expectation with that sort of price tag. Like it, although that that level of, I think he's our third highest signing as things stand, soon to be fourth. This will probably give them an idea of, look, this is the expectation level, because it'll be big crowds over there. There'll be a lot of excitement over there, so sort of give them a bit of a taster of, well, this is the level up you're going to have to get used to.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that. I mean, touching on the Isak thing, just so that we can kind of keep the optimism alive. One thing I was thinking of with the Ekitike thing is, everyone and their dog has known that we have needed a striker for months, if not years. Everyone has talked about Darwin Núñez leaving. We all know the tragedy that happened this summer. It was well known that, we were searching. And I think getting Ekitike through the door does a couple of things. It gets someone to work with for preseason, so that, we can at least have someone that's going to start there right off the bat. But it also kind of gets it gets people away from being able to hold us over a barrel when it comes to if there are prices for other forwards that we are looking at. If we hadn't gotten Ekitike in and we were absolutely desperate, I could see Newcastle really holding us for ransom if they were going to sell Isak. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. As Madge says, stranger things have happened, but at least now we hold the cards. At least we have a striker to start the season with. And, it's almost like having Isak is a bonus, which is a crazy thing to say, but we're no longer being held to ransom where it's we can name whatever price we want. So I also, as far as I've seen, it seems like, there's not really any other clubs that are involved in this conversation, which is kind of shocking. There may be a late approach from someone like a Madrid, but if Isak has had his head turned, even if he doesn't come this summer, if you're doing the groundwork now, I don't know, maybe it's a sneaky sort of ninja thing where you get him in January because he's unsettled, or maybe you get him in next summer. Because he's still going to be a fantastic signing next summer. So I don't think it's completely dead in the water. I just think that getting this done now at least means that we're stable no matter what. We're stable. We've got our number 9. We're not desperate. So I don't know, just a little bit of I don't know, olive branch for the Isak fans.
Yeah. The reason I think it still might happen. Unlike Kev, ignore Brian. Here's a question for the chat then: If this XP thing that's on YouTube now was us leveling up Pokemon, what Pokemon would Brian be? There's one to keep the chat quiet for a minute.
What's the little puffy one?
The one that looks like a sheep. Definitely.
Yes, the one that looks like a sheep because he hates sheep.
Is it a Wooloo?
I have no idea.
My daughter's Pokemon mad, so I'm well averse to all this Pokemon chat. The only reason I think some of us still think these could happen is we know how Liverpool work when they leak stuff and brief the press. Something would have come out by now saying it's done, it's not happening, Liverpool aren't interested, the price is too high, like we did with Bellingham, we did with other things. Players' demands, there'd be something to say. And they're all the line always is Liverpool remain interested. We know Newcastle saying he's not for sale as it stands.
Yeah.
So it's kind of leaving that door open of if things change, we'll go for it. I think personally they'll go for a centre back and a winger, especially if Diaz goes. And then there's money there for if the exact thing happens later in the window. If it doesn't, they'll go, we'll go with what we've got. But I think Ash, me and Kev were talking earlier, saying, looking at the squad and how we're building the squad, we need to go into this season with at least 5 senior attackers. And then your 6 attackers sort of share between Rio and Dan's if Dan's doesn't go out on loan. I think going in with just 4 I think is too much risk, especially when you know you're going to lose Mo from the 18th of December till mid-Jan.
Yeah, I think you lose him for about 6 games. And I spoke yesterday on our Patreon show a little bit about Frimpong maybe stepping in for Mo, and I think he's capable of doing it. I still stand by that. But I also can see the desire for someone that maybe is a little bit versatile across the front three. Whether or not we agree on who that person is a different discussion. But I can see the team kind of looking at their options there. If there's perhaps a winger that can play left wing or right wing, that would be fantastic. I think that would suit our needs, especially if it was someone a little bit younger than Diaz. The line that I keep going back to is one, I can't even remember where I read it, so I'm sorry to the person that I'm not quoting here, but it's basically, this setup rewards the sporting director for selling well, and their ability to bring players in the way that we are right now is entirely contingent on being able to sell players that perhaps you and I don't want to sell, like a Diaz. Because believe me, I don't want to see Diaz go. I think that he's established, he's versatile. I think that he has done enough to warrant continuing in this team. But that being said, if you can get the kind of money that Bayern is potentially putting on the table for him, and then reinvest it in a player that is perhaps younger, that has a higher ceiling, that is sort of the essence of what this higher end of Moneyball is. And I think that that's just important to recognize. Like, if we are selling Diaz, it's going to be with this idea of reinvesting that money in a way that makes a lot of sense. We're not going to try to make ourselves weaker. We're just going to look for, the next Diaz that's maybe a few years younger.
Yeah, that's very true. Which is why it doesn't have to necessarily be these two players, but I think that's why the names in the press have been Rodrigo, have been Anthony Gordon. Look, whether they're your cup of tea, whether you like them or not, but the one thing they have in common is they're pretty versatile, as in they can tend to cover both wings. If needed, they can play through the centre. That kind of feels like that's the profile of winger we're looking for, which, to be fair, is what Diaz gives us. You play him on the left. You could play him. We played him last year as a 9, and I do think if he doesn't leave, I think he's the right wing option for when Salah goes away in December, because he has played there before and done okay there. So that's why the Diaz one's going to be a very careful thing to get right. But we'll come back to Liverpool in a bit. Kev, looking around the league, Marcus Rashford has possibly one of the best agents going. I think he's now off to Barcelona.
Yeah.
Got Thierry Henry's number 14. Not bad. Not bad for underperforming at Man United.
Well, so he's gone on a loan with an option. I think the option is at 30 million. And look, 27 years of age. He's going into a Barcelona side not as a starter. He's there to supplement the forwards that they've got. He's taking a pay cut to go there. He's off Manchester United's books completely, and from a wage point of view. And he's been desperate for this move for so long and laughed and ridiculed for it, left, right, and centre. Why on earth would they sign him? They signed him because when they put him in that number 14 shirt, he's the first English player to sign for Barcelona since Gary Lineker, apparently. Right? And what have they got to lose? The worst case scenario is he does what he did at Villa. All right, that's the worst that can happen. And I think in the Liga, I think he'll do okay. I honestly do. I don't think he's going to push any of their established front three out of the way, but I think he'll be an option. And when you look at Robert Lewandowski, who's getting on in years, Rashford can do a job through the middle. He can play off the left for Rafinha as well. So, yeah, look, fair play to him. And with all the best will in the world, at 27 years of age, I hope it works for him. I do. Can't help but have a soft spot for him as a person. I think the way he's handled himself away from football and what he's done away from football, he's one of these human beings that I don't wish any ill on. I hope he goes and I hope he achieves something. I do, and he's just one of them. I don't hate every Man United player like I don't hate Spurs. I don't hate all Aussies. Just one or two that annoy me. But
you definitely hate all Aussies. We've got that on record.
I do know.
We've got that on record, haven't we, Ashley? There was a Patreon exclusive.
Chris Hemsworth is the kiddie. I like Chris Hemsworth. Chris Hemsworth is the bomb. But no, I think Marcus Rashford will do okay there. And from what I can see, it's win-win for Barcelona. Because look, they're getting an established England international who's got bags of experience at a decent age, and they've got him for no fee. And that wage at a club like Barcelona is not out of the way. So, it's a win-win for them. And apparently they will get him registered fairly easily.
Well, we'll see. There'll be a lever after.
I think I got a feeling that you could potentially see Ferran Torres maybe exiting Barcelona.
Could be.
Yeah.
Before I go to Ashley, she gets the low hanging fruit of Arsenal. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join our Patreon. The QR code's there. Just literally click the QR code, join. First month's free, and see how you do. Ash did a great show yesterday with Gav, which was a deep dive into Jeremy Frimpong. Really, really good. Because on Patreon, we're able to do a bit more analysis and also put clips in so we can actually analyze it a bit more. And we're sort of looking to put more and more stuff, shows into Patreon, just try new things. So it's really good. But Ash, let's talk about Arsenal. Gyökeres has finally arrived. Madueke, despite Arsenal fans filling some sort of petition to make it not happen, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard from football fandom. Madueke's outside, who I actually think will do all right for them. Gives them depth on the wings, covers both sides. Kind of don't really see what they're getting all upset over. But Gyökeres, that's the striker they want. Listen to the Anfield Wrap though. Although they've added to the squad, and that makes sense, is the squad now a little imbalanced because Havertz was their main guy through the middle, and to be fair, he probably would have got to 20 goals if he didn't get the bad injury he got. So Gyökeres going to be playing through the middle. So were you playing Havertz?
That's not my problem. I'm sure it's something that the set piece coach will probably take care of because he seems to be the one that's calling the shots. I think the interesting thing, I was going to pull up the stats, but I can't find them right off the top of my head, is the fact that Gyökeres isn't particularly good in the air. Which for a set piece, team that is basically acting like Stoke 2.0, is actually really interesting.
It's a unit as well, Gyökeres. You think he would be good?
He's very tall, so you would think that he'd be really dominant in the air, but apparently he's not.
Don't tell Dylan this. He'll be fuming.
No, I'm just curious to see how they'll use him. I think, like you said, it's going to require a little bit of a rejig. I always kind of thought Kai Havertz's best position was in that sort of false nine. He did score a lot of goals for them. I think he was a big miss for them last year, and I think I am not in Iceland. It's too warm for it to be Iceland. But no, I think he was actually quite integral. So I think pulling him out of the team, I don't know. It's going to be a balancing act. That sort of made me lose my train of thought. I think he's one that could move the needle, though. I think that we're all sort of being a little bit, I think we look at Norgard and we're like, nah, he's okay. And we look at, some of these other players that they're signing and like, for me, like Kepa is not going to move the needle in terms of their keeper position. I think he's a good backup. It's fine. I think that center back, I don't know if he actually signed for them, if they're still looking at him.
He's out. He's out where they're on tour. It's just a case of getting that deal done.
So there's a few of them that are like, they're padding out their squad. I think Zubimendi will be good for them. I don't really give a shit about him anymore because it seems like some of the comments that he's made about the club about our club are not really in the greatest light. So I hope he enjoys his paella and his mountains and his, raw chicken, cooked on grills at halftime. But I think he will move the needle for them. And I think that if they can make Gyökeres work, I think it'll work. But I don't know. I feel like there's also this alternate universe where he turns into sort of what Haaland was at the beginning for City, where he just sort of threw off their entire game so much that you looked at it and you were like, actually, they were better before. So I'm curious which way it's going to go. He's either going to be like a total hit for them, or I think he's going to look like a fish out of water in their system.
I mean, Kev, just mentioned the Anfield wrap, but I think it's pertinent with him, is with the signs they brought in, the manager's got to change up his tactics a little bit, because to get the best out of Zubimendi, it's balls in behind, it's high runners. And the criticism of Arsenal, partly because of injuries, but actually, I think even when they had a full squad, tactically it was like a little bit George Graham, 1-0, and will just sit deep. And they actually didn't attack as well as they probably should have done with the talent they have. And I kind of feel like with the talent they're bringing in, they've got to be a bit more front foot. And it's almost, and I think Thierry Henry said it about Arteta, which is he's too afraid to lose, so he sets his teams up not to lose. Whereas Slot sets his teams up to go for the win. But, as we saw, when you go for the win, sometimes you'll get caught out, a la Forest at home. We went to try and get the winner. They smacked us on the break, scored a great goal. That's the risk and reward. Pep, sort of used to be more that way. I kind of feel like to win this league, you've got to be able to attack it better.
Yeah. Look, I think Gyökeres is going to be a really good player. I liked him a lot. I would have loved to have had it. I always, the first time I laid eyes on him when he was at Coventry, I thought he was a unit. And then when I watched what he was doing at Lisbon, like, he just scores goals. He just scores goals. And he's very good at what he does. If you feed him and give him the right service, he will score. He will score goals for Arsenal. I've no doubt in my mind. Zubimendi, quality footballer. I agree with you. He almost has to be the guy. The centre backs will split, the full backs go, and he's your quarterback from deep. He is a playmaker. He's very comfortable on the ball, and he's a deep line playmaker who will find passes. I think he's really, really good as well. The rest of the squad is additions that they needed to make. They got a backup keeper for 5 million, who had a good season last year at Bournemouth. He's a good keeper, and he'll be fine as a backup. The young centre back, they needed a right-sided centre back for a while, who is an out-and-out centre back, not a hybrid player who plays at full back. And I think they've done the business that they needed to do, and in getting Gyökeres over the line, they've got that 9 that they needed to get. The one thing that I will say is they need to make some sales. They need to get some players out the door as well. Someone's like Jesus now, and there's going to be a few others that they need to get out the door.
I think that's been their issue, though, is they haven't sold well.
No, they've spent a shit ton of money and have achieved a sweet sum of nothing with it, really. The difference is when we were finishing second behind Man City, we were doing it with a points total that was good enough to win the Premier League in the majority of seasons. So we knew that we were right on the cusp of doing something special. Arsenal have gone backwards year after year after year under him, and they finished second last year, but it was like, it was a distance, and it could have been bigger.
Well, let's be honest, Liverpool were pissed for the last 4 games.
Yeah, exactly. So, in all fairness, look, I think that Arsenal they've done the business that they needed to do. They spent the money that they needed to spend. I agree with you, Madueke. I think he offers them with both sides. They've got some good young talent coming through. Nwaneri looks like a real talent, and Skelly as well, really good player. So,
who scares me about more than any, and I don't know why, I can't quite put my finger on it, is if they got Eze. Like, that for me would be the signing that I would be more intimidated by. Like, I knew they were going to get a striker, and I knew that they would get someone that could put the ball in the back of the net. Yeah. But for me, I think if they could get the creativity of Eze and figure out a way to make that work, that to me would be the most threatening signing that they could do this summer.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Eze's excellent. Brian, sorry, Brian's making me laugh in the chat. He's distracted me.
I just wanted to ask a question.
Happened to me quite a few times today.
I'm just gonna ask a quick question, you guys. Is there anyone in the Premier League that you've looked at so far, from going back when we were looking at the end of the season, that you thought, yeah, he's on the move, who's gone very quiet and there's been no noise about him? For me, it's Anton Semenyo. Morgan Gibbs White, another one.
We said he signed a new contract, didn't he, Semenyo?
Yeah, Semenyo did sign a new contract, and I don't think Bournemouth are going to sell him. I think that they've kind of reached their quota. They might sell like a Zabarni, and I might be butchering that last name, so I apologize. Yeah. So they might sell him, but I mean, I don't think that they can lose any more. And I think that him signing that new contract, there might be a release clause in there that I don't know about off the top of my head. That's sort of like one of those gentleman agreements where it's like, next year you can go. Because I do think that he's probably ready to take that next step. Yeah. But yeah, him, and then the Gibbs White thing that, that weird release clause that wasn't supposed to be released. The fact that that's gone completely silent, I find really interesting. Yeah.
Did anyone, Chris, did you think Morgan Rogers might be on the move, or might have been a lot more noise around him this summer?
I actually thought he'd be someone that Liverpool or Arsenal would sniff around, because I actually think he would give. I think if Arsenal signed Morgan Rogers from Villa, you'd go, ooh, him on the left, Saka on the right. Okay, that's a different That's a different problem. That gives them. It goes back. That would put you back then to the Rafa Blanket thing of like, we can only cover so many, which is like what Liverpool have done, bringing in Frimpong and Wirtz. Is, well, you can double up at him, you can't double up at everyone. And I can still feel at the moment with Arsenal, I think Madueke's a good player, but I still think if teams will still try and double up on Saka, I'd almost like take the risk of, I'll go 1-on-1 with Madueke and back my player. I think if they had Morgan Rogers and Saka either side, you would be going, shit, that's a problem. Yeah, I'm surprised no one's looked at it, but then again, because you thought, I don't know what Villa's financial situation is. Like, I'm surprised Emi Martinez is still there, because the way he did his last game of the season at Villa Park, it was full of tears and waving back. It was the ultimate waving goodbye. I'm going, and he's still there, which surprised me. I'm surprised no one's gone. No one tries to get him in. There was talk of Man United tries to get him on loan, which why Villa would loan him to you? They're not going to. I mean, that's also been the funny thing. I'm still not convinced. I think the lack of Champions League football now is hitting home with Man United a little bit, because they've now realised they've got to get a lot out to do anything else now. Because I think from all the reports you're reading, the 2 players they bought, that's all the money. So it's literally sales out, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of interest in buying any of their players. Like Konate, I actually thought he'd have moved. I thought actually he was probably like quite an attractive saleable option for a few people, but no one seems to have been interested in him yet.
I think it's crazy the way,
especially with his homegrown quota as well.
True. I think it's crazy the way that they've frozen some of these players out, in the sense that, if you're, I understand that they're not in Amarim's plans, but I think about it from like a purchasing perspective, and you've got this group of players that at this point in time are not training with a first team at all. They're not getting the conditioning that they need to jump into a team that is ready to start the season in a couple of weeks. So, I'm sure that they're doing like, specialized training. They're professional athletes and all that. But if I was a buyer, it's sort of like when we bought Chiesa. It's like, I'm now buying project players that we're going to have to then condition for maybe 6 months to then integrate. And it's kind of a 50-50 chance whether or not they will be ready to integrate. And I think, despite the drama that may come with it, having them training with the first team, I actually think is a much better bargaining chip than having them just sit on the sidelines and not even be allowed to, use the facilities and things like that. So I just find it very strange the way they're navigating this. I
think letting that go out in the media that, these 5 can only come to Carrington when we're not there.
It's just bizarre.
You'll make it. If I was the buying club, I was thinking, I'll do to you what we've always done to United is I'm just going to lowball you.
They just took like 10 million off of every one of those players.
Because eventually United will do what they always do, which is they'll crumble at a low ball offer because they need to get them out. But then by the time they got them out, it'd be so late, everyone will go, they're desperate now, we're going to rinse them. Which is why probably for us, we were talking about Ekitike, going back to Ekitike, is that does solve a problem to us because we've got now the number 9 that we needed. And we would like another one, but you're not going to look at desperation. So if a certain club wants to take a mickey with, we're going to go for, I'm not even talking Isaac, we go for someone else. And they want to take a mickey with a price, we'll go, what's fine, we'll move on, we'll go somewhere else. We're not going to be desperate. Whereas probably if we'd left it later in the window, we would be like, oh God, we'll just have to pay like 20 million more for a player that we don't rate to that same level. So, but Ash, I think you broke it earlier, so it's your exclusive.
I mean, I'm trying.
I'm joking. You read Twitter or something?
I did read. I read Twitter.
There is talk on. There is a lot of social media chat that it looks like Ibu's been offered a new contract.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on who you believe. There's no one. There's not like an Ornstein or a Pierce or a Joyce reporting it. But there are some people that are quoting Lewis Steele. There are some people that are quoting Mercado. That Ibu is being offered a new contract on improved terms. I really, really, really hope that's true. And it looks like they're quoting or saying that he's set to sign a new contract. So take it with a pinch of salt. I am not Fabrizio Romano. I'm not saying here we go by any means.
You're not got a catchphrase yet?
No, I don't have a catchphrase yet. Someone can come up with a catchphrase for me. That would be great.
Yeah.
That's way too American.
Okay.
It's a little too on the nose for me.
All right.
But I would be very, very happy if that happened. I think the last thing that we need is another Trent saga. The last thing that we need is to lose Ibu at this point in his career. Like,
I could be reading wrong. This feels more like the Van Dijk one, where it's like the players come out and said like, don't believe everything you read in the media. Half it's not true, and his brother's doing similar sort of stories. There's tentative links over places, but whereas when Trent left, nothing was said, and all of it was dictated by what came out of Spain. So you kind of the writing was on the wall. So Yo-Yo Peeps is the latest one, so that could be.
I think Konate. I think a deal for Konate is inevitable.
I hope so.
I think an offer for him is inevitable. I think he'll be offered a contract. Whether he signs it, I hope he does. We all do. I think for the sake of his career, it makes total sense. He's established at the club, first and foremost, and he's played at the top level. He's going to be playing deep in Europe every year. So that side of from a football perspective, it makes absolute sense. The club need to reward him financially for what he's offering the club, rightly so. You expect that. The other side of it is I don't think you want a contract negotiation or a contract issue if you're a French centre-back going into a World Cup year, because France are not short of options at centre-back. You want to be settled at your club. You want to be clear and focused on your football and your football only. You don't want to be in the press for the wrong reasons. And one of the wrong reasons would be what could potentially be going on as being talked about as a move to Madrid. Do they want me? Don't they want me? What am I doing here? All that kind of nonsense. You don't need that. I think he will get an offer, and I hope he signs. The other one.
Go on, sorry. You finish.
No, I was just going to say the only other thing is that, again, we talked about it last time we were on. It's still all absolute radio silence of Mark Guehi. Seeing him linked earlier in the week with a potential move to Spurs, but I think Palace have appealed the decision to Cass. So, and I think that will have to be heard and done and settled pretty quickly. Hopefully within the next week. But I think that doesn't really matter. If the Conference League or the Europa League, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't affect that kind, because there's not much money difference in the two competitions. So hopefully we see movement.
According to Kieran Maguire, there's more money difference than you think. He says you operate at a loss
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But at the end of the day, from Palace point of view, when you're looking at a club who've never qualified for Europe, physically just being in Europe is extra games that they never budgeted for in their planning.
Yeah,
so
I know what you mean.
Even though if you were a Manchester United and you're playing in the Conference League, you're operating at a loss because you'd have budgeted your squad for the Champions League. But if you're Crystal Palace, you're budgeting your squad for a set amount of home games, a set budget within a Premier League, a League Cup, an FA Cup. You add in an extra 10 fixtures plus into your season, that's massive. So it doesn't matter what competition they're in, it's going to be big for them. So I hope to see movement on a deal for Mark Guehi. Hopefully, in the next.
He was mentioned in the Joyce article today, wasn't he? In terms of they were talking about the Ekitike signing. They said Liverpool spending close to 300 million now. Said, but that's not going to be the end of it. And he says Liverpool still harbour interest. I think it was on the lines of harbour interest in Mark Guehi if the price is right, which is kind of Liverpool speak for Palace. Your price is still too high, but we want your player. And I think something came out the other day from the Palace end, which said they've kind of informed Mark Guehi that if he doesn't want to sign a new contract, they'd rather they sold him the sort of get money, which would make sense. So this one feels a bit like an inevitability that a centre back will come in, and it feels like Mark Guehi is the likely outcome, which means if Konate signs, Ash, we're looking at centre backs of Van Dijk, Konate, Guehi, and he's still got Joe Gomez. Feels quite a bit of depth, quite a lot of horses for courses. They all offer slightly different things.
Yeah, I'd be very comfortable with that. I mean, one player that we haven't really talked about today in terms of the transfer market is Hato, seemingly moving to Chelsea. He was linked with us for quite a long time. When we talked about him as a center back option, but I think when we were talking about him, we were very much looking at him as more of a hybrid where he could cover maybe left back, maybe center back. If you look at his numbers, I know we included him in a center back show early on in the summer, but he played all of last season at left back. So in terms of him coming in and being a solution for us after we signed Kirkez and we have Tsimikas and we have Robertson, that didn't really make too much sense to me. Guehi makes sense to me, especially if we are kind of pivoting toward this style when we are in possession where we're turning into a little bit of a back three. That makes a lot of sense for me in terms of his history at Palace. I think his leadership skills would be fantastic. I think his age is great. I think right now we're probably just playing a little bit of a long game with Palace, waiting for them to drop that price, because I think as early as last week I saw that they had a price up around 70, which makes it's crazy chance. Given that he has a year left. That makes no sense at all. And so for me, I think that we're just kind of standing firm. We have that contact. We know he wants us. He knows, and vice versa. We're just sort of waiting for Palace to kind of drop that to a place that we feel comfortable with. Below 50, I think that we have a conversation. 70, never. Yeah.
Can I just ask? I'll ask you actually, Ash. If Mark Guehi doesn't sign, and we sign him next season on a free, do you think that's potentially why we haven't seen Andy Robertson or Kostas Tsimikas leave the club yet?
Okay, Tsimikas, I don't think plays that role.
No.
I can see a worst case scenario, sort of PTSD version of Klopp coming out and saying we're going to use Robertson and Endo as our emergency center backs. But for me, it is so triggering to think of that. There is a scenario where Robertson was on the table to go and he did not get that offer, and we're thinking about squad harmony because of what has happened, and we don't necessarily want to let him go. He's a good leader. Maybe Slot's thinking, hey, I can make a role for you that I wasn't initially planning on, which would be sort of this, backup center back. I don't love that idea. but it's not something that hasn't crossed my mind late at night when I have these weird anxiety thoughts about what's going on with the team. So I get it. I think if we don't sign Guehi this year, I think we line him up for next year, and I think we probably go for someone younger. I think there's that young kid from Italy. I think there's also the kid Cresswell that we've been looking at. He's about 22 years old. So there's a few that are there. We know that Hughes and Edwards have contingency plans for any eventuality. So if that eventuality means that Guehi is not allowed to leave, because I do think he wants to go, but if that contingency is he's not allowed to leave, perhaps because something we haven't mentioned is that they had Diamande lined up at Palace, and they had the funds, I think, to sign Diamande if they were in the Europa League. But if they're in Conference League, I don't know if they can sign him. So that person that they had lined up to then take the place of Guehi is now no longer there. And so until they get that person filled, I don't think they're going to sell Guehi, for the same reason that, we were just talking about, with Ekitike, where it's like they don't want to be held over a barrel. I have no idea what's going on. Oh, Madge has her fingers in. Why? Because the birds? I'm sorry.
No. Just to be clear, so far, Kev's pissed on the Isaac rumours and told us all to not have dreams and hopes. I meant to really good. He's then triggered you and me in the chat by saying, well, if we don't sign Guehi, we'll just put Robertson or Simicast at centre back. And left you that hand grenade to go. There's a hand grenade, Ashley. Try and make that look good. Try and make
in my defence, I'm playing devil's advocate because I think it would be absolute.
Kev, you're acting the bollocks. You're not playing devil's advocate.
I don't. No, look,
it's not my fault.
I just look at it. I mean, look, I think we need a fourth centre back. All right, I think Mark Guehi is perfect.
Yep.
My thing is, the longer this drags on, if it's a case that Palace don't sell him or Palace don't get the money they want and they dig their heels in and say no, we're keeping our player, which they're perfectly entitled to do, by the way. I don't know where we look to bring in a centre back, and
I think the fact that
at the moment, I just look around and I'm like, there isn't that many centre backs available that I'd actually want.
But we're not even getting like the thing of
if it's not him, it's someone else. We're not even getting
someone's going to be lined up though. Like they would not have let Kwanzaa go if they didn't have someone they will have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and a contingency plan for whatever. And the last thing on that rung is going to be Robertson and Endo. There's going to be 7 more people that they need to go through before they get to Robertson and Endo.
Red Steve has also said the devil has enough advocates, so I think that's you getting told there.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things. I think we're waiting for Palace. I think Palace need to get their center back in. I don't know who that's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be Diamande. I think once they get him in, then we see Guehi move. I think Guehi is Premier League proven. He's training with the first team. Like, he will be able to slide in if needed. Yeah. And he's not going to be part of our first 11. Like, I hope he will eventually.
Yeah, I think he will be.
But if Konate signs a deal, let's just say hopefully, I think we don't really need to bed someone like Guehi in. Like, he will be able to seamlessly come in. So if he does happen at the end of the window, let's say, because we are waiting for Palace to get their ducks in a row, I think we're okay. Okay, now I need to look what's going on in the chat.
Madge Apple's making me laugh. Not an advocate, just a devil incarnate.
Look, it's hump day. Leave me alone.
Right.
Wednesday.
Grump day. Right. Yeah. Right, Mr. Grumpy. Before we go.
Boss.
Lewis
one thing.
Oh, is this breaking news?
No. Ashley, congratulations on the show for Patreon. It was absolutely fantastic.
Oh, good. I'm glad you liked it.
I was in work today and I listened to the whole thing and it was absolutely brilliant. For anyone who wants to listen to the deep dive on Jeremy Frimpong with Ashley and Gav, it's on Patreon. It's the video. Watch the video of it. It's so worth it. Scan the QR code. It's free for a month. Give it a go. If you like it, stick with it. If you don't, fair enough. That's, your choice. But trust me, you want to watch this. Ashley worked really hard and she's done a fabulous job. assembling all of the stats, all of the clips, everything you need to know about Jeremy Frimpong and how he's going to develop and evolve into the Liverpool squad. Absolutely brilliant piece of work. Really, really enjoyed it. Well done.
Thank you. It was meant to be like a little pet project on the side, but now that we've signed like 400 players, it's going to be a full-on series.
Yeah.
So Gav and I are going to be doing this sort of in the order that we got the signings in. So Frimpong came in first. Kirkes is going to be soon after, so that'll be our kind of next episode. We're doing our best to kind of keep up with the signings as they come in. But
by the time Ashley's done all of our signings, it'll be January. We're like, so Ashley, let's do a show.
It'll be like a full-on Amazon, documentary.
Honestly, trust me, guys. If you haven't watched it, get and watch it. If you're not on Patreon, scan the QR code, download the app, check it out for a month, give it a go. Well worth it. I promise you, you will not regret it. It's well worth it.
Damo here with the comment of the day. The greatest trick that ever pulled was convincing anyone Andy Robbo could play centre back. Oh bless, poor Andy Robbo. Anyway, before we go,
I don't know.
Kev. Now you've just turned this into disarray. Luis Diaz.
Good job.
Talk of another bid imminence. I don't know how long it takes to write a bid, but Bayern been imminent for this for a while. 2 questions. 1, do you think he'll go? 2, who do you think they'll replace him with, or / who would you like them to replace him with?
Yes, I think the next offer from Bayern is going to be a proper offer, and I think it's going to be one that the club will likely accept. Bayern need this deal. All right, Bayern are in a position where they have to sign this deal. They need to get this one over the line. They've missed out on too many left-wing options, and I think it's becoming clearer now that Luis Diaz, I think he's a consummate professional. I think if the club decide, no, we're not accepting this offer, I don't see him doing a Victor Gyökeres. I think he stays and he'll do a perfectly good job and he'll be absolutely fine. Happy days. Everyone will be delighted. I just think that the offer that we get is going to be one that you have to accept. Who they look to bring in? I would love to bring in Barcola. If you're going to spend the kind of money that's been talked around for Alexander Isak, and if Alexander Isak isn't available, which I don't think he will be, I think I'd take whatever money you could or whatever money is needed to sign Barcola. And I was talking to Shawnee earlier on, and Shawnee said to me that he's signed a new deal. I just don't care. In Kev's world, I would love to sign Bradley Barcola and bring him to Liverpool because I think he's going to be a superstar.
Okay, so actually, we're spending 500 million now, because Kev's just.
I'm jumping on the deep dive with you on that one. I promise you that.
He's got like a $100 million release clause that Kev is happy to trigger.
Yeah.
Less money.
But then we won't do. But then he won't have that for Isak. You know what I mean? He's just a pain, isn't he? Same question to you, Ash. Diaz, okay. Do you think he goes? And if he does go, who would you like to replace him?
So, yes, I think he goes. Like I said earlier, I think that the system rewards the sporting director for selling well. And if you have a player that is unsettled and has expressed a desire to leave, and you can get the money that, is theoretically being bandied about by Bayern Munich, especially after the Musiala injury, they are desperate. They need someone to play there. They like a senior player. They can do things like they did with Harry Kane and make them shine. I think that you let him go if the money is right. And I think that we hold all the cards there, and I think they're going to play hardball with him, and they're going to get exactly what they want for him because, otherwise, I think that we keep him and he plays. It's fine. I think, there's reports around Rodrigo, which we sort of touched base on with Kev earlier before the show started. And Kev is not the biggest Rodrigo fan. So we will, that's one option.
If we sign him, can Kev do the reaction show?
What I think that he becomes the new Australian kind of substitute. So I don't know. Maybe it means that he hates Brazilians now or something. I have no idea.
Leave me and Brazil alone. Me and Brazil are cool. All right, me and Brazil are safe.
For now. Give it 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about anyways. So there's Rodrigo. I think the other one that's been talked about is Gordon, and then I think probably that third option is Fofana. And I think that you're talking about sort of 3 different profiles. You're talking about, with Fofana, you're talking about someone that's young, that's sort of up and coming. He's a project. I don't know necessarily where he fits with Rio, and sort of like them fighting it out for the future, because he feels like one for the future. I'm sure he could play in the Premier League now, but there's going to be a betting in period. Going for Gordon, he seems like someone whose value was very, very high 2 years ago from Newcastle. I think they were really outpricing him from a move 2 years ago. I think his value has sort of fallen a little bit. His goal return really worries me. In a better team, in a team that provides him service, I think it's possible. I am not necessarily as 100% gung-ho on him. Rodrigo comes with really, really high wages, which is something that we don't normally deal around. I can see a world where, I've listened to other podcasts talk about, the money that you would get for Diaz would be the money that would be asked for Rodrigo. So you'd kind of break even there. But you are talking about, he's already on 200 plus at Madrid. And he is finding it difficult to break into that team. I will say, however, that Hughes is known for taking players that have sort of fallen off or out of favor with big teams and reviving them. So in that regard, I could kind of make an argument for Rodrigo, especially if he was going to stay sort of on the same wages where he's at now, or if we were to lose like a Chiesa, who's on very, very high wages.
Yeah.
I believe he's on about 150 a week.
Yeah.
So if we were to lose someone like Chiesa, bring in a Rodrigo for, a little bit more, you'd take a little bit of, maybe Trent's old wages and you'd tack that on. I can understand that working. I think no matter what happens, it's going to be all about data, and it's going to be about what this team kind of sees for these players. They're all going to be around that 24 and under mark. So again, it's one for the future. So, if they're not going to be able to break Diaz's ceiling, they're not going to go for them. But I think that there's a world where I can make an argument for all 3 is the very long answer to your short question.
Richard makes a really good point there. He says, Rodrigo's behavior on and off the pitch at Real Madrid has been exemplary, and he has been the water carrier for the other 2 glory hogs.
And he's had to change his position for them.
Yeah,
so,
yes.
He hasn't had the opportunity to shine on his favored left side. He's had to kind of do everything sort of to make the other players shine. And like I said, I think that, we do, like, Hughes does have a history of taking those players that have sort of been left out in the cold and then rejuvenating them. And I could see that happening. And there might be a market opportunity, because I think that maybe 2 years ago, if you had said that Rodrigo was on the table for, 70 million, you'd be like, what the hell? Like, I'll snap 100%. Your hand off. 100%. So it's possible that they think that they can rejuvenate his career. And I can understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Ritzel points out, Liverpool had a long-term interest in Rodriguez, similar to Gravenberch. I think Liverpool were interested in getting him before he went to Real Madrid from Brazil, but he chose Real Madrid.
Yeah.
If it was me, I think Diaz goes. If it was me and it wasn't my money, I'd go and buy Morgan Rogers.
It's a good shout, actually.
Just get Morgan Rogers. He can play a number of positions. He's homegrown.
I don't know if he can play up front though, and I feel like he would.
Well, we're buying the
same category as the
we're buying Isak, so that's fine. Morgan Rogers has covered the wings. That's the way it works. This is my little fantasy world.
Yeah.
Don't burst my bubble.
Your bubble.
Don't burst my bubble.
That's some serious levels of bubble there, mate.
Oh, mate.
That's West Ham levels of bubbles.
Well, I'm also on holiday on Friday, so I think I've also got holiday excitement, so I don't really care.
But I mean, the other one that I asked earlier on about players who I thought would move and haven't yet. and they'll still come back. Ollie Watkins, I expected to have
that's
moved
good.
by
That's
now.
good. Shout.
Grealish is another one that came to me during during the course of the show. The fact that there's nothing around him.
I think Grealish is one of those players that his wages might be a stumbling block. But I honestly think the fact now that we've got Hugo Ekitike in the door, a seasoned, experienced Premier League number 9, who can back him up and who you can play and bed Ekitike in through the squad. Someone like an Ollie Watkins wouldn't be a bad option for us either.
Well, stop him scoring against us because he quite likes doing that as well.
He does like it. He does like a goal against Liverpool.
There could be that habit, but we'll worry about that when that comes. Yeah. Right, it's 11:15, so we should probably let people go. Kev, anything before we go?
Yeah, seen a lot of chat because I've been pretty quiet in the Telegram group the last few days. It's nothing to do with Cork getting absolutely walloped by Tipperary in the All-Ireland final on Sunday.
It is.
It really isn't. And I'll tell you why. I had this row with someone in work on Monday morning.
You? Sure.
I would rather lose the way we lost every day of the week and twice on Sunday than lose by a point on a dodgy refereeing decision. I can stomach getting absolute. I watched that Tipperary side in the second half due to a side. I've never seen that done. Cork played. They went in at halftime 6 points up. Come out in the second half and for 37 minutes scored 2 points. Unheard of. This is a side who won the Munster title, won the National League, and beat Limerick, which are like the Man City of hurling, twice this year. Flying it, right? And Tipperary came out like a side possessed and destroyed them. Absolutely destroyed Cork, left, right, and centre. Absolutely well done to Tip and fair play. I've just been a bit busy, actually. The day job actually has been pretty hard the last few days, so I just haven't been around.
Cool. So no breaking news?
No breaking news.
Okay.
I haven't picked up my phone yet, and I'm not picking up my phone, so I don't care.
Maybe Ashley's going to steal your thunder now. Tell us.
Yay, breaking news. Isak confirmed.
No. I'm just looking forward to seeing them play again this weekend.
Yes.
I hopefully seeing
kickoff, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's 7:30 my time. It's early. I'm just excited, hopefully, to see Verts play a little bit. Because there's clips from the behind closed doors and there's teasers, but I'm ready to see him in action. I'm ready to see them all in action. So I'm very excited about that. So this feels like the real start of preseason, which is exciting.
I'll just look for highlights because I don't think they'll be showing that where I'm going.
You know what? Humble brag a little bit more.
I will.
Yeah.
I haven't done it for a while, so I thought I'd get it in.
No, look forward to Saturday. And I'm looking forward to seeing Verts. I'm looking forward.
I'm jealous. That's one thing I'm jealous. I'm not going to probably see him.
I'm looking forward to seeing where Verts is deployed and the system. So I'm looking forward to watching that.
I'm intrigued to see where Szoboszlai goes because he's everywhere at the moment.
Yeah. He's.
I think he's going to be our utility guy. I think he's going to be like a younger Hendo 2.0, where he is doing a lot of the work of players that, are taking liberties, like a Salah or a Frimpong moving forward. I think Szoboszlai is going to be that guy that drops back in and covers a lot of the running work because that's. And I don't see him being displaced. I don't think that, Verts coming into this team displaces Szoboszlai. I just think it means that he has a different role.
Yeah, I have a feeling we could start seeing Liverpool evolve into a 4-3-3 and 4-1-2-3. If you get.
I was going to say we are a 4-3-3.
No, we're kind of like 4-2-3-1, but I can see us playing the 1-6, an 8 that's Verts, who is more like an attacking 8, and a floating 8 in Dominic Szoboszlai, and McAllister and Gravenberch, and I think McAllister will be the one that comes in and rotates with Jones. Or McAllister, I think the midfield 5 will just be so interlinked and so interchangeable that it'll be seamless. And I'm just dying to see on Saturday how this sets up.
We'll need to have a deeper dive after seeing it because I was thinking about Jones the other day too. and about how Slot has sort of deployed him a little bit at right back.
Yeah.
And how, now you have another midfielder that's getting deployed at right back. And it's like, what, is there a hint here at something that's going on where there's going to be a little bit of rotation happening? So I'm very curious, and I think that we're going to have a really good conversation and at least have something to sort of work off of.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Preston game was one of those, look.
That was just an exercise.
Yeah, it had to happen. It was the first one back. And now that they've had the bones of, 10 days working.
Yep. They had their sort of big first of playing a senior game with some of those senior players, allowed to do that behind closed doors without the emotion. I think that was very smart.
Yeah, I think like last season when we went away, you started to see how the patterns of play were evolving a lot more. So that's something to look for. I'm sure we'll do a post-match on Saturday and we'll have a good old chat about it.
Yeah, I think it'll be great. Right. Don't know if Chris will be there, but hopefully maybe
Matt
will be there.
I definitely
Matt will be there. Matt will be there.
Yeah, that'll be something to look forward to. So yeah, if you set your notifications, because that'll be right after the game on Saturday.
Absolutely. Right.
Lovely. Right, on that happy note, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll see you all fairly soon. We'll be back tomorrow because we'll probably start somebody else by then. Kev will be fuming. So until then, take care.